बालस्तावत् क्रीडासक्तः तरुणस्तावत् तरुणीसक्तः वृद्धस्तावत् चिन्तासक्तः परमे ब्रह्मणि कोऽपि न सक्तः। बालस्तावत् क्रीडासक्तः तरुणस्तावत् तरुणीसक्तः वृद्धस्तावत् चिन्तासक्तः परमे ब्रह्मणि कोऽपि न सक्तः. Very, very famous verse from Hari Om Hariji. So he's saying Hari Om to me, I must say Hari Om to him. No, it's all right, Hariji. I think we will go along with the text. So the translation of the verse is, so long as one is in childhood, one is attached to play. So long as one is in youth, tarunastavat taruni saktha, one is attached to women. So long as one is in old age, one is attached to worry, vriddhastavat chinta saktah. And then he says, parame brahmani kopina saktah. Who is ever attached to the Brahman? Who is ever attached to the supreme reality? So don't forget the context. Verse 6 spoke about attachment to the physical body. Verse 7, the verse we are doing now, speaks about attachment to the mind. How your mind has developed attachment to various things at various stages of your life. And the next verse speaks about the intellectual attachment. So this verse talks about the mental preoccupation you have in your life. As we've said, you may be free from attachment to the physical body. You may not be worshipping your body. You may not be indulging in the senses. You may not be going berserk, running behind to satisfy what your senses demand. Fair enough, you've conquered your physical demands, but then very fair chance you've fallen a prey to the mind. Balastavat krida saktah. As a child, one is attached to play. It is impossible to pull a child out of his attachment to the toys and trinkets, isn't it? The mother is trying to bring in discipline to the child. Exams are approaching, but the child is not, he's not bothered about the studies or his exams. He's not bothered. He's not concerned. He's all the time in play. The child is all the time involved in friends, all whatever the child gets joy with. Balastavat krida saktha. So the entire childhood is gone with the toy world. The moment that, when does a child get into the toys? When it's picked up another toy. The child grows up, becomes youth. Then the child has developed a certain passion. Tarunastavat taruni saktah. He has got a passion for woman, passion for name, passion for power, passion for proprietorship. He wants to constantly run behind these, chase, acquire, enjoy the world. At that stage of your life, you can't tell a child, man, why don't you acquire this wisdom? Why don't you gain these higher values, study Vedanta? They are caught up in the kaleidoscopic attractions of all what life has to throw at them. They are so enamored, enchanted by it, they run behind them. Tarunastavat taruni sakta. And the beauty of the youth is they have got so much energy. They've got so much of enthusiasm. They have that, what they call as purushatvam, that the capacity to explore. So they don't mind going and exploring, trying their hands at many new things, many new ventures. They want to try new things in life. They get excited, they get carried away. And then sooner or later you will become old. And what is the sign of that old age? Vriddhastavat chinta saktah. You're constantly worrying and worrying and worrying. So if you think you are young, and if others saying, why are you worrying? That means you already become old. Others will notice it. You may not notice it. You're constantly worrying. Tarunastavat taruni saktha, vruddhastavat chinta saktha. And then he says, Parame brahmani kopina saktha. Nobody is thinking of the higher. Nobody has time to think of the higher. So as it were, the Lord is complaining that nobody has time to think of me. Because all your life you're engaged with something or the other. You're not able to take your mind off your preoccupation. You're mentally preoccupied with something. So therefore, one of the most essential spiritual qualities, if you want to pursue the higher, or even if you have to sit and listen to this class, is your mental availability. So the mental availability is very important. If you're mentally not available, how will you seek anything in life? So you want to seek the higher, you need to be mentally withdrawn from the worldly activities or anything you're engaged with. Only when you're mentally withdrawn can you take your mind from that and plant it to something else. Many a time your mind is not available with you. Why? Because your mind is preoccupied with your attachments, whatever you're caught up in. You can't stop thinking of them. As we said earlier, whatever your moment you attach to something, that attachment limits you from seeing anything other than that. So a child attached to a toy, the child can't see anything other than the toy. Youth attached to passion, the child or youth cannot see anything beyond the passion. So you want to pursue anything, you must have that spirit of detachment. So alas, nobody is thinking of God, he says. So in short, when somebody says that, sir, I don't have time, when you have been trying to bring someone to this class and somebody says, I have no time, it just means they have no interest, they have no inclination. That's about all. They are mentally not ready for it. They're not available for it. You can do as much as you want to do. You can say as much as you want to say. But if they are not mentally available, they will not be seeking it. As simple as that. Parame brahmani kopina saktaha. Nobody is interested in the higher, which is a fact. All right. Just take a note of it. It is the state of your mind. Your mind is caught up with something or the other. Your mind is attached to it. And remember the law of attachment. We have pondered over it a couple of classes ago, but just to mention it so that we reiterate the idea. What is the law of attachment? What happens when you're attached? Whether you're attached to the physical body or you're attached to the mind. What happens when you develop an attachment? Yeah, Hirenji.
Yeah, I have a separate question as well. For this question, what you are asking, if you are attached, we cannot seek anything higher than that, anything different beyond that.
When you're attached to anything, you don't see anything beyond it.
That's correct.
It's almost you blindfold yourself. You don't see anything other than that, isn't it? Yeah. If you're attached to your family, you start worshipping your family. Your family is everything for you. You're attached to your business is everything for you. You're attached to your money is everything for you. If you're attached to your investments are everything for you. It means everything. And if that collapses, your life collapses because your life depends on it. Your life thrives on it. Your life pings on it. So attachment limits your vision, point one. Anything else? What else does attachment do to us? Anybody else? Setramanji?
You identify yourself with the attachment. You fully identify.
Attachment is nothing but identification, isn't it? So if you identify with your family, you become the family. If you identify with your business, you become the business. If you identify with politics, you become the politics. Then what happens? Whatever you're attached to is subjected to change. That change influences you. You also are subjected through change, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying, sir?
Yeah.
So attachment is nothing but identification is subjecting yourself to what the object of identification is subjected to. You are subjecting yourself to what the object of identification is subjected to. So don't get lost in the words here. Huh? Am I saying correct? Hariji, correct? Huh? You are subjecting yourself to whatever object of identification is subjected to. Means whatever it goes through, you are identifying with the stock market goes up, you're happy. The stock market goes down, your blood pressure goes high. You get restless, you get affected, it hurts you, it disturbs your mental peace and equanimity. You can't remain detached and watch the stock market going up and down. Oh, that's very interesting, that's nice. Oh, okay. You will not be objective and stand apart. You will go through the turmoil because you're attached to it. All your life savings are invested in it. You're hurt by it.
Attachment,
Yeah,
attachment blinds you, blocks your intellect and wisdom.
absolutely.
So that's the next step of attachment. And so you take the wrong steps.
Attachment, it just blindfolds you, it blocks your wisdom, you're deluded, your vision becomes very narrow, isn't it?
Correct.
You can't think anything beyond it. You become a slave to your own perception or your own emotion. You don't see the broader picture. And if I'm attached to my own viewpoint, I think my view is right, I think I'm right, and then that creates a huge conflict. Attachment to your own ego goes about destroying everything around you.
So in life, we have too many attachments, most people. It's very difficult to get detached.
So if I ask each one of to go through a process of self-evaluation and find out is there anything that you're detached to in life? Congratulate yourself.
Well, you consciously try to detach from few things, some of the easy things to do, but the family and a few things get still bog you down as you try to progress. You can give up many things. I don't watch TV, I don't look at movies, I don't do many things that I was doing earlier because I don't want it to disturb me. So I don't have attachment to all that, but I still am very attached to my children, my grandchildren. They just weigh you down completely. I cannot dissociate, be dispassionate about it. At least not yet.
Again, go back to the verse. Each one is attached to different things at different levels. You have risen above that, but there's something else that's fascinating you. You got to understand the limitation. You must understand that there's something greater, something grander, something more purposeful, just beyond getting caught up in these. The mind has a tendency to develop attachment. The question is, where are you directing your mind to? If you have directed the mind to the higher, it will invariably develop an attachment to it. But since the intellect is not channelizing the mind to the higher, and since the mind is left to itself, wherever it goes naturally, it has invariably developed an attachment for it, a fondness for it, as simple as that. So all what we are seeking shelter in this wisdom is to the strength so that I have the ability to channelize the mind where I want it to go. Now the mind is not in my control. It goes wherever it wants, and it goes wherever it finds a certain joy, and invariably it's developed an attachment to it. And then we are all paying the price of attachment. Wherever there's attachment, there is bound to be insecurity, there's sorrow, there's suffering, there's pain, there's only pain. If you're attached to business, it is going to cause enormous pain to you. If you're attached to your reputation, if somebody flings a remark, somebody is talking loosely about you, it's going to hurt you. You can't be objective to it and say, well, that's his opinion. It is the end of the day, anybody talks about you is their opinion of what you are. It is not a fact, isn't it? I know myself more than any one of you know me. And if each one of you were to come to your own opinion, you hear a talk of me and come to an opinion of it, I would respect it. That's your perception of what you think of my capacity, of my knowledge is. How does it make me any less or any more? But if somebody were to put me at a pedestal way beyond where I am, I will say, oh, that person is over evaluating me. He has put me at a higher pedestal than where I am not. Somebody puts me below my capacity. Oh, he has not assessed me well. That should be my capacity and come to my understanding as what I am. Why should I be fluctuated? Why should I be affected by others' opinions? And yet we're constantly affected by what the world has to say about you. By attachment, attached to your own name, attached to your own image. Yes, Srinivasji, you wanted to say something?
I got the answer.
Right, okay, fair enough. Right, Vijayaraghavanji?
I'll just Guruji, isn't there an inherent contradiction in this, in the sense that if I am already reinforced and I'm very fully aware of what I am about myself, if I'm inured to receiving any inputs from outside, I mean, I must be able to accept it and mull it if required. But if I don't, I also get rigid and attached to my existing image of myself. I mean, at what point of time you keep it open? I mean, this is like you have a theory. The best way to improve your understanding of a theory is look for contradictions and try to remove them or modify the theory. Now, in this case, if I don't accept any inputs from outside world, how do I modify my perceptions and modify my clarity?
Yeah, in fact, you're right. In fact, that's what Shakespeare clarifies it, if I'm not wrong. He says, give every man thy ear, by few thy voice. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. You gave every man the ear. Why can't you lend your ear to anyone, what anybody has to say? But few thy voice. You don't have to contradict it. You don't have to justify it. You don't have to defend it. Give every man the ear. Let everybody say what they want to say. That means you're very receptive. That's what, when you see Lord Ganesha, a human form with an elephant head, what do you see with an elephant head? Huge ears. The large ears of an elephant means he was very receptive. A trademark of a leader is you must be very receptive. Other day I was saying someone this. Somebody was giving me a candid feedback of certain things, and I said, they were very apologetic to say, Guruji, please apologize me if I'm overstepping. No. I said, if I'm not ready to lend my ears and listen, I am not a leader. I should be available to listen and receive anything that's given and thrown at me. I should be ready to be corrected. Otherwise, I'm rigid, isn't it? I said, I'm very happy to receive and listen to anything. And then come to your own conclusion. Reserve that judgment. That opinion is mine. I would reserve my judgment, but it's for you to feel what you want to say.
So long as it doesn't the very fact of an input should not create an impression or perception about the input giver. I mean, take what is said and not who said it, perhaps.
Absolutely. Yes. It is not to take the personality into it. It's just a point of opinion. Perhaps, see, if somebody were to give an opinion of you or a situation, you must respect that somebody has considered you worthwhile of spending their worth time on you, without being asked to invest time on you, isn't it? I have not request you to think so much about me, and somebody has done that. So you thank them for their time and effort, for their investment, and the least you do is lend your ears.
Thank you, Guruji.
Right. Yeah, Hirenji.
Yeah, last time I didn't get to ask my question.
Please, no problem.
As the saying goes,
yeah,
that service to man is service to God.
Yes.
Okay. If we constantly try to work on that, how to do betterment somewhere, someplace, yeah.
Mhm.
And what more can be higher than that? I mean, it's not that I don't believe in God. I believe in God, but I find it difficult to say, okay, God is higher than what good I am doing for my fellow human beings. So how do you answer that? I mean, how do you think about that?
So in the 4th chapter of the Gita, Lord Krishna answers it. He says there are 4 types of services a man can render. Dravya yajna, in fact the verse is Dravya yajnas tapo yajnaha yoga yajnas tathapare swadhya yajnana yajnasya. Isn't it? There's a verse which says this. There is Dravya yajna. Dravya yajna is service at the physical or material level. Yoga yajna is service at the emotional level. Jnana yajna is service at the intellectual level. Swadhyaya jnana yajna is service at the spiritual level. These are the 4 levels of services. So you can either serve dravya, physical, material, tapaha is physical, yoga is either emotional or intellectual. These are the right words. The terms are dravya is material service. So you could part with your material to others' needs to alleviate or relieve of their sufferings. You can write a check and give to them, okay, to this organization, I'm giving $5,000, or $10,000. You write a check and give it and done with it. Or you can say, auto debit from my account to this organization. This much amount goes because I know they need resources, and you have given instructions to the bank. Material service, you're done and you're forgotten. Hoping that the services are meeting the requirements. Material service. Tapaha, physical service is superior to dravya. You physically take the time and the trouble to go and see what they need, how you can be of service. You involve your physical body to serve them. Time and again, you get engaged to help them. Physical service is superior to material service. Material is signing a check or giving an instruction to your secretary. Physical services, you take time and trouble and you go down onto your knees and help them, whatever they need. Then the third is emotional and intellectual service. You're trying to help people from their emotional trauma and suffering. There are people who go to hospitals and talk to people and make them comfortable. Because they know they don't have the emotional love. So you go and feel and cater to them. You go to orphanages, you go to old folks' homes, you find they're neglected. Their parents have neglected them. So you go and talk to them. Emotional service. Intellectual services, you give them a know-how, knowledge, of skill of how to make a living. You teach them. That's the third level. And then the highest service a man can ever render is to give the knowledge of the self, the Atma Vidya, which is known as Swadhyaya Jnana Yajna. And if in all the services, if you have to serve, it is imperative that you must have something with you to give, isn't it? If I want to do material service, I must have enough material surplus that I can part with. If I want to be a physical service to you, I must have my limbs strong so that I can be of service. If I have to give emotions, I must be emotionally strong and enriched so that I can make you emotionally comfortable. So at the intellectual level. And also the same principle applies to the spiritual level. If I have to give the knowledge of the self, what is necessary? If I have to give the knowledge of the self to you, what is necessary? I'm not talking of bookish knowledge, sir, here.
I need to have the same wisdom as well.
I need to have the wisdom. I've heard this text 30 years ago. 30 years later also, I'm doing the same text. What is it? I don't need, it's not the information that I have. What I have to do is acquire the wisdom. I must realize the self myself so that I can part that to you. which means I have to embark on a journey. And realization is not something you can finish. It's not a 6 months project, isn't it? Or it's not a 2-year project. It's a lifetime purpose. It's a lifetime goal. And there's no guarantee I'll achieve it. So all my life I'm embarked on it. I've plunged into this discovery of myself. And that, if you part with others, the Shastras say that is the highest service a man can ever render. Because in the process of discovery, let's say I have discovered myself, I realize myself, what would happen? Generations will be benefited from the truth which I've discovered. Is it not? What Christ spoke, Christ was crucified during his time. People didn't understand Christ then. Today, half of humanity is following what Christ said and did. Isn't it? What Buddha, as a prince, he realized the truth. Today, humanity is still benefited by what the great Buddha discovered in his lifetime. Now, when you say dravya, how many people can you serve materially, sir? You can be very rich. In fact, the rich people are getting together to try to alleviate the suffering of the poor. The billionaires club, they call. They all got together to say they are writing off all their properties, all their earnings and assets to charitable causes to alleviate the suffering. But in spite of all the charity, there's still so much of suffering, which you see out there. So as an individual, if you want to serve, how much suffering can you relieve? Physically, how much can you do? Emotionally, intellectually, how much can you do? But if you want to, but the fact that if you realize yourself and the service you render, generations will be benefited. I'm only talking in terms of gradients. But if somebody comes to you and wants emotional service or physical service, you can't say, I'll only give you Atma Vidya. I'm sorry. No. You can't start off by saying Om Sahana Bhavatu. That fellow is hungry, and you can't say Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu. You can't do that. You got to feel charitable to that fellow and see how you can help him, isn't it? So it's not being rigid in what you have to offer. Whenever you want to be of service, one of the paramount things when you want to serve is to find out what does the recipient need. What are his needs? It's very important. It's not what you can part with. Many a times we think what I can part with, what I have excess, is not what other person needs. So it's important to find the recipient needs and serve it. But these are the various levels of services. If I'm not wrong, it is chapter 4, verse 24. Rajiman, can you please confirm that? Reconfirm, please. Chapter 4, verse 24, which gives it out.
Thank you,
Spells
sir.
it out. It spells it out, sir. Okay.
Thank you.
Right. So quickly to recap, attachment. Firstly, we said it blocks your vision. You fail to see anything other than that. Attachment also develops a wrong. Attachment is nothing but a wrong identification. It's not a healthy identification, a wrong identification. You can possess things, you can have a family and yet be detached to it. So detachment is where you have a healthy relationship with your possessions, with your things, with your beings, with people around. When you're detached, it doesn't affect you. It doesn't limit you. When you're attached, it limits you. It becomes a source of your own sorrow and suffering. It becomes a pain. You can't live with it. You can't live without it. But if you're detached to it, you're happy with it, you're happy without it. Harishi, sorry, you wanted to say something?
Guruji, no, you have said it much more eloquently, but I just wanted to recall what you have said earlier, which I thought was very relevant over here.
Please.
Because the whole confusion, I think, comes because of a wrong understanding of the word detachment and attachment. we always construe detach from an object or a being, detach from the world, whereas you have always said detachment is a mental state. You detach while in the world. You detach while in action. You don't detach from action. And that is the essential difference. So when you learn how to detach while still being in the world, then you would come to the concept of focusing on a higher cause, working towards greater objectives, and therefore looking beyond yourself. And that in itself will remove the attachment.
Yes. Harishji, we have given him that specific portfolio of capturing the essence, rasa, and takeaways. So he has wonderfully captured the concept of detachment. Hariomji. Right. Which is the right verse, Rajima? I think you have given 28 and 24. So the contradiction. Is it 28? Yeah. So it's chapter Hirenji, it's chapter 4, verse 28. Okay, right. Okay, we will come back and continue. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.